There is an anxiety symptom that I feel like is scarier than any of the other ones. And it's one that I feel like nobody is talking about. This is a symptom that was so bad for me that I ended up in a psychiatric hospital. I have spent over 20 years dealing with anxiety. I have been to the depths of rock bottom. And I'm no longer in that place. I have healed my anxiety. I no longer have any chronic symptoms. So if you deal with chronic anxiety, you probably deal with something I like to call the what if this isn't anxiety loop. So that's what I want to talk about in this video, because that is the symptom that scared me the most. More so than any of the other anxiety symptoms I had, whether that was like a really bad racing heart, panic attacks, air hunger, even chronic pain, because I ended up in a situation where I had body-wide chronic pain as a result of a lifetime of chronic anxiety. And I think it was the chronic pain that really brought all of this to a head, because it started off this really long journey with health anxiety, basically. This thought of, but what if it isn't anxiety this time? What if it's something real? What if it's something unsolvable? What if it's something deadly? What if it's a huge problem? I know that it could be anxiety, but what if it's not anxiety? And it was that loop that I was getting caught in for hours and hours a day. And I want to talk about specifically why this experience, why this symptom of anxiety is so terrifying. But I first want to say, if you experience chronic anxiety or chronic symptoms like all the time, there's a very good chance that your nervous system is not just dysregulated, it's actually sensitized. If you don't know for sure, I have a free quiz that you can take, and it'll tell you real quick if your nervous system is sensitized. But the reason it's so terrifying is because it feels so different than fear. It feels like certainty. It feels like your brain really believes that you are in actual danger, the type of danger that requires medical help or someone to help you get to the bottom of it, or for there to be some type of medical root cause and hopefully some type of medical solution. And this is the very symptom that drives people into taking action and reaffirming this loop. So it doesn't take very much time before we are just literally Dr. Google. We have 50 different chats with ChatGPT. We have looked in every Reddit thread that exists. We have gone down every Facebook group rabbit hole, finding out everything that we can about this thing that we think we have, that our brain has said, nope, this is not anxiety. It's real this time. This isn't just anxiety. This is a heart attack. This isn't just anxiety. This is something very serious. And I want to clarify really quick on that same note of like, this is not just anxiety, because I feel like people really get gaslit, especially when they talk to medical professionals who like to say something like, it's just anxiety. I feel like we are doing ourselves, and that doctors are quite honestly doing their patients a disservice, not telling the whole truth here about just anxiety. It is caused by a sensitized nervous system, a nervous system that is now interpreting everything in its environment as an actual literal threat, which is not good for us if we have anxiety. And the hard loop here is that it sends us into a spiral of trying to figure it out, mostly because it feels irresponsible to not take it seriously. And it's hard because in some ways, you really can't trust your body at this point. And that's hard for me to say because I'm so huge on trusting your body, but we have to rebuild that trust, especially with sensitization, because with sensitization, there are different opinions out there of like, is your system broken? Is it misfiring? Is it dysfunctional? Is it living in a state of dysfunction? And in my opinion, it is. You could say it in many different ways. You could say it's working too well, or you could say that it's kind of living in dysfunction. It's just very sensitive. So it is responding to things as if everything is a threat. And so we have to, at the beginning of this, in really severe sensitization, not take it seriously, not listen to it. Because if we did listen to it, every single day would be sending us to the ER to try to get to the bottom of it. And it only takes a couple ER visits or an inpatient hospitalization to realize that tests are good. Nothing is coming up as wrong. Doctors can't find anything wrong. You've been all cleared to figure out that the symptoms your body is giving you are not actually a representation of there being something actually wrong, which is hard to grapple with. It's hard to grapple with that when our body is screaming that something is wrong, but there isn't technically something wrong. Another thing that can get tricky here is, of course, there are times when there is something that can go wrong. Of course. But that's where I found acceptance to be really helpful to me, because it was hard for me to face, well, what if I'm wrong? What if I'm wrong and doctors miss something? That's such a sneaky thing for anxious and OCD leaning people to deal with, because they have heard a situation or two of where someone did miss something and when it was something very serious. And we use that frame of thinking to justify a lot of really compulsive behaviors and justify the obsessive thinking and reassurance and venting and going to the doctor 3 times a week and ending up in the hospital to try to get testing done to rule things out. That's where that advice can be tricky. The advice to go and make sure you rule out anything serious is hard when you're stuck in the, but what if this is an anxiety loop? Because that loop is being reinforced all of the time. Everything feels serious. Everything feels life-ending. Everything feels like a real big problem that needs to be solved. So it's almost like we have to embrace this. Yeah, maybe it is irresponsible. Maybe something could be missed. I have to be able to accept that. And that was hard for me. When I started learning more about OCD and really severe anxiety, I realized that what may be normal for another person who's like, oh, I have this weird lump on my leg, I should go check it out. With people like us who are really sensitized, we're looking for lumps. We're looking for anything. We're looking for anything that feels suspicious. And many times that just has to do with how unsettled we feel internally. That it feels helpful for us to try to match something external going on with our body to what we're feeling inside, which is blaring danger, danger. There's an alarm going off. Something needs your attention. So we start looking. It's because we need to match. There's obviously a need for something to get my attention. Where is it? Oh, it's right here. Oh, let me check my blood pressure. Let me check my heart rate. Let me find something that makes sense, because there's clearly something wrong. And in that case, oftentimes it is anxiety for sure, but the anxiety also has a root, and that root is nervous system sensitization. It's very important to me that you know that, because it isn't just anxiety. However, anxiety is one of the things on the path of sensitization. After you're sensitized, you have anxiety that will drive other symptoms. Symptoms of anxiety or other chronic symptoms like chronic nerve pain from head to toe, like I personally experienced. And eventually I had to realize that every varying symptom I had was not sign of new structural damage or disease or a new diagnosis that I needed. And I had to get comfy with that, because I had new shit popping up every other day. In every part of my body, in different systems of my body. It wasn't just nerve pain from head to toe. I started keeping a list of the symptoms, because I knew there would be a point in my life that I would be able to look back and laugh and be like, that was crazy. Not crazy in a shaming way, like literally that was crazy. Like, I can't believe what our body and our nervous system are capable of. That kind of mind-blowing, can't believe I went through all of those symptoms. Can't believe I was able to let those symptoms come and go and move through me. And I am at that point now. I was at that point where everything was confusing and overwhelming. And now I'm at the point where I'm like, that was wild. What a wild experience to go through. But that is what a sensitized nervous system feels like when it's trying to interpret normal sensations. But instead, it starts interpreting these normal sensations as something dangerous. Again, these are more than a symptom of anxiety. It's a symptom of sensitization. You would be shocked at how many symptoms there are of a sensitized nervous system. It just means that it's too sensitive. It's too touchy. It's going off for reasons that it's not technically supposed to go off for. It's supposed to be able to alert you to the need to run or to fight or to hide. But when that system is used so often, it gets locked on. The lock on, the chronic dysfunction, that is what sensitization is. It doesn't mean you're like more broken than the next person. It just means that your system got locked in that chronic survival state of fight or flight, instead of just getting dysregulated sometimes and having a hard time coming back to baseline. You don't even have a real baseline. or that baseline is set so high that any little thing knocks you over the edge. We want to bring that baseline down so that your capacity goes up. So you have to get to this point where the goal does not become solving symptoms. In fact, that's like one of the biggest signs that you are on the right path, when you have let go of the need to fix symptoms. When you move into a state where you're not very focused on symptoms anymore, you are on the right path. But where should your focus be instead? Your focus shifts from symptoms to response. Instead of what does my pain feel like today? What are my symptoms doing today? What's my anxiety doing today? It's how can I respond differently? How can I get better at being with what's here? How can I allow these symptoms to exist without my intervention? How do I take my grubby little hands out of the equation and let my nervous system do what it ultimately knows how to do, but that we are retraining it to do via response? Your nervous system, especially when sensitized, is going to send you so many alarms. So many alarms in terms of symptoms and feelings and intrusive thoughts and anxiety and heart palpitations. I could go on for days. The way you interact, the way you respond to those symptoms with less fear, with less focus, with less fixing, less attention, is the way you retrain it. It's the way you desensitize it ultimately. So I know anxiety comes with a lot of very, very scary symptoms. But to me, there was nothing scarier than being like, oh my God, how do I know if this is real or if this is just another symptom of anxiety? And the truth is, when you've lived in a state of chronic anxiety, 99.9% of the time, what you're experiencing is simply the symptom of sensitization. It's a symptom of a sensitized nervous system. I'm not saying never get checked out by a doctor, but we need to see when it becomes compulsive. Here's a good way to know. If you are spending a lot of time on the internet, on Reddit, on ChatGPT, in Facebook groups, and or what you think you have changes hourly, daily, weekly, from this to that, to this to that, you have to get real with yourself and you have to know this is not a new diagnosis. This is sensitization. It's freaking out about everything and feeling like everything is an urgent emergency that needs to be solved. It can be really helpful to remind yourself of that when you start to freak out. Oh, this is sensitization. What I'm doing right now is sensitization. And what matters the most here is how I respond to what I'm experiencing. And when we respond by running to the doctor, running to the computer, running to someone we love and just venting everything out to them, we are reinforcing the sensitization and the symptoms. Because what I found out was that the scariest part of anxiety was not the symptoms. It is how convincing your system can be when it's sensitized. I'll see you guys next time.